So this video was a formal request by one of you guys over on Discord. Hence today we're gonna talk about ambush tactics. And as I doubt anyone plays ambushes in online battles, we're just gonna focus on fights against the AI. They should basically be the same anyway. We're gonna cover 3 different battles in this video, 2 offensive ones and 1 defensive. Also a tiny bit of historical context which we will talk about now. We all probably know about the Battle of the Toxborg forest, hence I won't actually talk about it today. Instead I want to tell you guys about what some believes are the inspiration for Arminius, namely the Battonian War, which also is referred to as the Great Illyrian Revolt. The war itself took place in 6 AD to 9 AD, so literally just before the infamous slaughter in Germania. Along the road near a well-defended town, the 5 legions of Rome almost got decimated. Massively outnumbered, the main reason they won was because of their encampment. A Pyrrhic victory. But my personal favorite ambush was the Battle of Lake Trasimene. During the Second Punic War, Hannibal Barca caught a Roman legion off guard, blocked all paths of escape and forced the enemies to either surrender or commit no breath. Well over 15,000 of the 25,000 Romans were killed. It is widely known as the greatest ambush in history. The military historian Basil Littlehart even explains that, quote, "It is the only instance in history of lying in ambush with the whole of a large army," which implies how unique of an occurrence this was. And to follow it up with the historian Robert O'Connell saying, it was the only time an entire large army was effectively swallowed and destroyed by such a maneuver. Now, some of you might think, well, what about the Battle of the Toxborg forest? Well, let me explain you this. The Gauls spent 3 days, whereas Hannibal only needed 3 hours. Such a legend. We're gonna be using the following armies for the few tests today. This Lusitani force will participate in all of them, twice as the attacker and once as the defensive one. These Carthaginian and Massalian armies will be their opponents. The Massalian army will be attacking it too, and the Carthaginian army will only be defensive from their point of view, of course. In principle, I've made them just like how I would have done it in a regular campaign playthrough. A bunch of swordsmen and one with the spear corps instead. In terms of ambush battles, the tactic usually depends on the terrain. The denser the forest or higher the hills, the better. The attacker will have the deployment advantage, meaning they can decide where and how the battle will proceed. Typically this is done by making a sort of kill zone. This will most often be where the target is at its weakest, or somewhere the terrain denies them an escape, such as through a defile. That means a narrow pass or gorge between hills, for the non-native English speakers. But as this is Total War and encirclements are the best way to crush an enemy, we're gonna try to get around their flanks instead. That and try to face an unorganized army from the front. Using fireballs is a great way to initiate engagements, but only use them if they can roll downhill towards the enemy. Anything else can be quite awkward. After this, you should follow up with a charge from all sides. Swordsmen and shock infantry are best for this. The cavalry should go straight for the enemy general, cutting off their morale. Any spear units can help by blocking off any forms of escape or support the cavalry. This will typically result in the greatest result. But if you're playing as one of the Greeks and have a large portion of your army being spears, this approach will suit you too. You can just form up your army right in front of the enemy. Any cavalry you might have will have to charge in and slow down the enemy, possibly even killing the general in the process. In principle, this is more of an exploit, allowing you to only fight half of the enemy army while the other just sits around doing niche. However, as I don't like that, I will engage them too. Depending on how you're fighting, this can be highly effective. And okay, so as much as I don't like to admit it, Defensive ambushes is the only time I pause during any total war battles. The funny thing is, you don't really need to, as the AI always deploys far enough away for you to make your moves. During such battles, it is all about covering your own flanks, trying to form defensive squares to deny rear charges. Noob boxes, basically. Once engaged, it is then time to make a counterattack and encircle the attacker, trying to break them. If you're using pikes, this is even easier, as a mere wedge-esque formation should suffice. And although ambushes take so damn long to play, I mean, for me 2 minutes is a long time. Never mind. What I'm trying to say with this explanation right here is that we will only be showing the battle footage you've just seen here about the ambushes. Now, the results could be quite inaccurate because the armies aren't really balanced or anything. But the Lusitani build, which just straight up encircled the enemy army, only took 700 casualties, whereas the Massalian army lost close to 1100 men. Overall, I would probably always go for the former approach, as it is both more immersive and effective by the looks of our results. The defensive ambush went alright too. I know I made a few mistakes leading to more casualties than expected at this certain area, but it was still a victory, showing how it will work for you too. In theory, I can't really give a proper rating on how good these tactics are, as the sample size and the variety of tactics is so small. But if you compare an ambush with a night battle, for example, because they almost have the same effect, ambushes are the preferred approach for me. It grants you all the possibilities you require to destroy an entire enemy army without taking any serious damage yourself. I don't have that much else to say about ambush battles, so until the next time everyone, goodbye.